In our next exercise, we will see we will once again apply dollar addresses, or absolute mixed relative addresses. Choose from amongst those three. And what we will see is that we by now theoretically know how dollar addresses work, but there is a difference between just knowing how those work and between knowing all the tricks of trade that you can apply in Microsoft Excel. So let's begin. Our problem consists of a number of membership cards issued by a health club. A different number was issued in each month. So for instance, in January 65 were issued, in February 54, in March 71, in April 45, and so forth. And now what we are going to, actually, let's not say ahead of time what we're going to calculate, but let's see what's going to happen during this problem solution. So let's take the table and let's write equals C3 in here. Now the first question is, if we know ahead of time that we want to apply dollar addresses, which way should we go? And if this question is asked from people, usually someone comes up with a correct answer. We want to put a dollar before C, because you see, when we are going to copy this formula, when we copy it up and down, it's gonna the C3 is gonna move up and down with C4, C5, C6, and C so forth. And when we copy it left and right, we don't want the C column to move, because there's just one column filled with numbers. So the answer is correct even without knowing exactly what we're doing. Okay, let's take this formula and let's copy it all over the table. Again, I'm going to copy in one direction, then take the entire row this time, and then I'm going to copy in the other direction. It's filled with tables. Now the formatting is messed up once again. Let's just select everything here. Let's click on Control 1 and let's select border, none, outline, border, none, outline. Okay. Sorry, I think we should have said none, outline. Let's see why this doesn't work. Now this is somewhat weird. I have to figure that out later. Anyways, the next thing we want to do is consider the first row. The first row is about January. When you give up a club card in January, it's going to be valid for the next 9 months, which means that in October, November, and December, it's not valid anymore. Or when you issue a club card in February, it's going to be valid until the end of October. It won't be valid in November, December, nor February. Okay, we're going to do March now. March is issuance month. It's valid until the end of November. December it won't be valid. Next January it won't be valid. Next February it won't be valid. That's just for the reason that it's valid for 9 consecutive months. Okay, April means that it's gonna last until the end of the year, and it won't be valid in January, February, or March of the next year. So as you can see, we're gonna kind of be making a shift by 1 month each month. So we can quite automatically, finish this table up, and then we can just make one comparison as to see whether we were actually right. Let's take the last month. It's the number of cards issued in December is 49. They're going to be valid in December and for 8 months in the next year until the end of August, and they're not valid in September, October, nor November. And now let's see, as a solution to our problem, what's going to happen when we consider the columns now. For instance, when we consider the column of January, the cards issued in January are valid in January, and all 65 of them. The February's cards are not valid in January because they were valid until the end of October, not valid in the November, December, nor next January. For instance, cards issued in March were valid until the end of November, not valid in December, January, February, which means they were not valid in January. April's cards were not valid in January as well, but for instance, May's cards were issued in May, were valid in the same year's last 8 months, and in January, which means the May's cards were valid in January. The June's cards were valid in January, and July's, just one random example, October's cards were issued in October. They were valid for 3 months in the end of this year, and then 6 months in the beginning of the next one, and consequently they were valid in January. Thus, the column sum in this table shows us when we were given a number of cards issued each month. The column sum shows us how many cards were valid during this month. This is the number issued in this month. This is the number valid, issued in different months, but valid during this month. So let's write it equals sum. Let's take this block. Let's copy it. Let's fix the formatting. None, outline. And here it is. For instance, the month of March. The valid cards are issued in January, February, and March. In March, the April's, May's, and June's cards are not valid, and July's, August, September's, October's, November's, December's are valid. So we will end up with a number of cards that are valid during March, and the same way for all the months. Thus, this graph up here shows us the number of cards valid during the current month, and we can see that, for instance, the low point was in August. Let's see, in August we had 461 cards, and that's one thing for our analysis to take with us. As we can see, we had actually prepared the graph here beforehand. So for instance, this was all deleted and the graph was empty. And if we click on the graph, we can see that this graph uses the month names and the final results rows. So this is also something that we do from time to time. If we are more of power users of Microsoft Excel, we will create all those graphs, stuff like that, and when a simpler user enters some of his or her data, we will already have everything finalized and ready for her to take with.